Good morning. Scott Thompson here from Scott Art CNC, live from Willow, Alaska. I've been wanted to touch base with you guys quick and do a quick little reveal on some of the details. I've been making some of these mugs, travel mugs for some of my grown kids who play Dungeon and Dragon games. And they're turning out kind of cool, and a lot of you have questions about just how I'm doing that. So I'm going to do parts. The first part is I'm going to show you a little bit about prepping the mug and getting the wood and stuff ready. I'm going to tell you a little bit about where these liners and stuff come from and what I've been doing in the past to make these and why I think it's a little bit better now. I'll show you some of that really quick, and then I'll hopefully splice in some videos on actually designing the model and how to right size the model so it works. So to start out, I'll show you, this is, I made a bunch of mugs for some of my moose hunting buddies, and this is what I was doing before. I'd actually carved the mug out of a solid piece of glued up wood, and then I would take this very large 5-inch deep, half-inch end mill, and I would hollow them out. And the catch with that is I had to set up a jig to do the second part. After I finished the rotary work, I'd set up the jig and do a very deep cut to remove all that wood, but it was difficult to get it centered, difficult to hold it still, and a lot of setup time, and I just found that wasn't working so great. So I went to, I'm going to lift the camera up, and you're going to get seasick, so just bear with for a minute. So what I started doing was cutting these out of a piece of maple and get it all planed and level, and then I would cut out the rings like this so I could stack them. Those are 1.5-inch pieces of maple. And I get them all stacked, and you can see here's the bottom one just has doesn't go all the way through, and stack them all. This last ring on top is leftover from the last mug I made. I just glued those on top so I can clamp on the rotary right here. And the actual mug carving will only come up to about here. So I'll cut that on. The last thing I'll do is machine that off. So I just glue them and clamp them. You can see there's one's all glued and clamped together, sort of thing. And I've been doing a couple different ones, but these are the first ones I'm doing to try get them to fit inside with that liner. And let me show you a little bit about that quick. So here's what I've been using for liners. Put this back here so it stops wiggling. I found these on Rockler. You guys all know Rockler, so I'll put a link in the comments section down there where they come from. But they're a pretty good little set, pretty easy to use. And pull that out of there. You can see the lid just pops off. So not a lot of rocket science to it, and that's kind of a quick insider look at just exactly how we get those mugs teed up. In a couple minutes, I'll link in. Hopefully, you'll see in just a second a look at actually building the model and how the model gets built up in a spire. So stand by. Thanks for looking. If you get a chance, go to our Etsy store, Scott Art CNC on Etsy. Appreciate it. All right, I'm back here in the shop. I'm going to pop up some, I'm going to try to do some screen sharing with you really quick and show you just how it is that I'm building up these 3D mugs for there. Hopefully what you're looking at right now is a 3D model of a Dungeons and Dragons mug, and this one features a mimic. I didn't know what a mimic was before the kids started showing me pictures of what a mimic looks like. So in my normal process is to show you a finished piece that's ready to carve, and then I'll grab I'll just dismantle it and go through it front ways. I'm going to pull this over here. Pop off some clamps. That's me dropping clamps on the floor. But this is what the blank looks like. So the bottom of the piece will be right down here. And then the top of the piece, I'll clamp it up here. And I need about a 1/2-inch extension for the jaws of the CNC machine to grab it. And the piece actually ends up in this area right here. So we'll carve about from here to here, just so you have an idea. This is all glued up
This is a remnant from the last one I cut off. So that's our blank that we're working with. And the hole inside, we're going to talk about the hole because I'm going to show you how to build a hole. Okay, some of you really want to know that. So this is a finished piece here. It says clickety clackety, I roll to attackety. So that's what he wanted on his piece. So if you're not familiar with 3D design in Rotary, basically what it's identical in many ways to how you design in standard 3D modeling. The difference is, in this particular case, this model would sit like this on my machine, and the carving tool pass in, if it was a flat piece, would go back and forth. If I was doing it, it would go back and forth like this and eventually move its way up the y-axis as it goes back and forth. Well, what happens in a rotary is it goes back and forth in the X direction on my rotary. You can switch it can go back and forth in the Y if that's how yours is set up. Mine's set up for it to go back and forth in the X, and of course it goes up and down in the Z. And then instead of the machine, the spindle moving in the Y direction, the spindle stays stationary in the Y direction, and this piece rotates into it. So you'll see when this thing's sitting on the machine, you'll do a complete X pass, and then it'll rotate a little bit, another X pass, and it'll rotate a little bit, another X pass, and it rotates a little bit. So that's the nature of how it's fed into the machine, and hopefully that helps you understand that when we're designing these things, we're designing them in a flat space and then going from there. So for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and this is a copy of the model that I made. I'm going to turn that off so we don't have the model here anymore. Oh, look, I'm working on another one, which is a human. I'm just going to delete that one because I don't need that in there. And we'll go back to this space. I'm going to turn on all the components map. And you're going to see, again, the finished piece. It just hasn't been combined yet. So I'm going to turn off all these components so I can show you how this all gets stacked together. I'm not turning off, and we'll go back through this. There's a mimic. So the first thing you want to do when you're doing rotary stuff, especially something like a mug that has a hole in it. So if you look at this right here, and if I go back to the rotary, what it would look like, it's essentially, this is the first place, I call it a base. It's 1.44, and that's the radius of my hole that's in this mug. So the first thing we build is, I call it the base, but you could call it a hole. So essentially, you create a component that is the exact same size of the hole that you want and you'll get that hole size based on the specs on this Rockler insert, and it's the size of this little piece up here. So you get that, so it'll fit in there. I make mine extra tight. I actually loosen them up a bit with some sandpaper at the end just so they click in and stay, and you don't have to fight that. So this is I call this the hole. The next thing I put on over here, the next thing I build is something called the mug wall thickness. So this is, after everything's carved, how much wall do I want left inside that mug? Okay, so this is, when you're looking in here, I want to have some wall thickness left behind, and then on top of that I want my artwork, but I want that wall to be intact so it's strong and can hold up, have some strength to it. So in my particular case, so I'll add what I call the mug wall, and you can see there it is. That's the mug wall. And in my case, and you can, if you're into you can see from this that I made it right at 1/4 of an inch thick, and that sits. I have it so it's additive. You can see here I have it in add to previous component. So there's now, on top of the hole, there's now 1/4 of an inch thick wall. So then everything else, so this is your base. This is the base for this whole thing. Everything else is going to go on top of that. So all the artwork, any design features we have is going to go on top of that. So the first thing, and this you'll play with this a little bit yourself. I pulled this stone wall. I like to use it on these mugs because it looks, adds some age and that sort of thing. I pulled this out of Vectrix clip art. You can find that in clip art. I built a bottom for the mug, and I got this kind of backwards, but you can see here's the bottom flange. That's this piece right here on the mug. Be right there. And then I need a top. I want a lip on the top of that right here that tapers down to meet that stainless steel cup insert. So I did a top lip, and I built that, and you can see it fits right in here. And there's the vector I used to build that. And then the rest of this is artwork that I created myself. So this is a mimic. I didn't know what a mimic was, but I positioned the mimic on here, this handsome little fellow. Apparently he's one of the game pieces in Dungeons and Dragons. So let's get that out of there. Close that. I just moved the position of where one of these was in the component list. You can mess this all up or make it work by where items are in the component list. They have to stack in the correct order. And you just need to learn how to use that additive feature and merging feature to get that to work. So next element I added on here was just the name. This particular young man's name is Lance. Did that from just using the text tool. Let's see. It's going to say clickety clackety, and I made these letters different so I could re-sign them. It says I roll 2, and this one here is to attackety. That one was, that was a sword. There's a piece I added some more depth to the sword. So there's really is the finished piece ready to go. And what I now know is that here's the depth of the hole, there's the wall thickness when I carved this thing, and there's, all the artwork is right here in this little half-inch space I left myself to do this. And again, this is all designed around, this is the ring. So that ring is the same size as that hole, that 1.44 radius, and the outside is 4.5 inches. So I have 4.5 inches. So, you do the math and you can tell what you have to work with, and you cut that all out and glue it up. And end result is some kind of a little mug like this. And then I check it against the measurements that I know I have to make, and go take it over to the rotary CNC, and that's sitting over there right now. I have it all teed up, ready to carve. I'm going to start carving it in a couple minutes. And that's really about all I have for you. So you have questions? Let me know. I'm always happy to answer questions. And if you need some help putting something like that together, let me know. And again, as per normal, if you get a chance to, please stop in our Scott Art CNC store in Etsy. I have literally hundreds and hundreds of files in there, and I'm happy to help you with any of those files at different times, or other we do a ton of custom designs and all that. So again, thanks for looking. Send me your questions and send me pictures of what you're building, because you guys all inspire me, and I appreciate getting the chance to watch you build stuff. Thank you.